Hi guys, Andy here. I have here the Sony Xperia X Performance. Thank you very much to clove.co.uk for the loan of this device. I'm going to grab a quick cloth actually. I realised it was quite that smudgy until I get it under the lights. It's the X Performance. The design of the device, let's start with that. It's a very much what I call a slabber phone. So it's just a block of phone. It sits nice and flat, so if you type in it doesn't rock. No camera bump or anything like that. It is 8.7 millimeters thick. So not like it's crazy thin, but doesn't feel big or bulky by any means. And what I do like is it's all just nicely rounded basically. You look along the edges there, just nicely rounded, so it feels good in your hand, nothing too pointy or sharp. There's not really any of the, I think they call them like aerial lines these days or something like that, the lines that go normally at the corners to allow the aerial to function properly. There's not really them. I mean, there's a couple of lines, if the camera's focusing properly, along the bottom there, look. But generally a nice sort of, I think it's metallic. It's hard to tell. A thin metal is not that different to a plastic in many ways, but it certainly feels good. It feels well made. If you give it a bit of a, there's not really any creaks, groans, there's no movement. It feels good and solid. Certainly feels a premium. It's also IP68 certified, which is dustproof and water resistant. I think the wording is over 1.5 meters and 30 minutes. I don't quite know why it says over 1.5 meters, up to I would have thought maybe. But yeah, so the design definitely a plus point. The screen's supposed to have this oliphobic, maybe I'm just particularly greasy. It's supposed to have this oliphobic coating so it doesn't smudge up, but I think we're seeing there already it smudges up pretty quick. The hardware itself, it has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 820 chipset. It's got a quad-core twin Cryo CPUs. They're 2.15 gigahertz and 1.6 gigahertz. So basically the same as the LG G5. The GPU is the Adreno 530. It's got 32 gig of storage, although it does have a micro SD card in with the SIM card slot, which can go up to 256 gig. You can forgo the micro SD and put a second SIM in there if you wish. And it has 3 gig of RAM. So all that gives you pretty decent power. It wasn't uncommon I could get 5,400 out of Geekbench, although the results were a bit inconsistent. I think on my unboxing I got 4,600, and I ran it again at some point this morning and it gave me 4,600. So I'm not sure if it's a heat throttling thing, because it did, when I was benchmarking, it did go a couple of degrees above, and that's just kind of on the screen, above the other devices I've used, So possibly a bit of a throttling issue. It still averaged a pretty good score, but it seemed quite inconsistent. The screen is an IPS LCD 5-inch, 1080 by 1920 pixels. That's about 441 pixels per inch. It went up to kind of the mid 600 on my light meter, so reasonable enough. I didn't have any problems seeing it outdoors in the light. Let's take a, oops, let's get a finger that's actually registered, shall we? So if we have a look at that, again, if the camera will focus, it's I think it's very crisp and clear. Definitely not a problem with the screen. It doesn't have Gorilla Glass, but it does say it's scratch resistant, and as I've mentioned, this oliphobic coating, which is debatable how well it works. It doesn't have the always on screen like the LG G5, which actually I kind of miss, having used that for a week or so. Switched over to the Xperia and didn't have it. I do like to be able to have it just on my desk and have the time showing on the screen there. Never mind. It does have a fingerprint reader on the power button, which is actually very quick. So I'm going to press the power button, watch how quick this finger is registered. I mean, that's very fast. In my testings, it had beat my Note 5, it beat the LG G5. I think it's one of the faster fingerprint readers I've personally used myself. So very good. On the base, it's the micro USB connector, so they've not gone USB-C route. Maybe that's fine for the charging. The speakers are an interesting thing. So it's got stereo speakers. Now, normally people say, "Oh, brilliant! That's that's a strong point of the phone." Actually, no. Well, not for me. I don't believe so. The volume, very, very poor. See if we can show you.
I'm hoping this is the Resident Evil game that everyone can agree on.
So that's fully up. I don't know how well my microphone picks. It should be okay.
Very interesting to me, just with all the kind of virtual.
Let's go in and we'll play a little bit of music, and hopefully not enough that I get taken off. So, I mean, it's okay, it's not too bad, but it's actually one of the quietest speakers or set of speakers that I've tested on any phone ever. Well, since I've had my sound meter, which has been a good year or more, 2 years maybe even. Yeah, it will be at least 2 years, 3 years. So, yeah, disappointing. From stereo speakers, I would have hoped they'd put some pretty good speakers in there. Didn't particularly sound all that good. The device does have NFC, but it's up in this top corner, which I think is quite interesting. So I actually think that's quite a good idea. If I was using this for Android Pay, for example, so if you're going to be holding your device probably in some manner like that, and actually it's not necessarily that natural to move it around to tap. Whereas if I'm holding like this and I just went boop, that seems quite natural, boop, with the sound effect, boop. So yeah, NFC is in the top corner. I think actually quite a good idea. There is a dedicated camera button, but I mean, I had put in my notes, I put not that responsive. I don't think it's not that responsive, just that you have to hold it for a long time for it to do anything. So that's what, if I press it now, all right, brilliant, worked perfectly. Mind you, I did press pretty firm and hard. Let's go back to, let's actually unlock the device. So that was a good solid press. There was no mistaking that's a press. Nothing happens. So I'm going to press and hold, and then it opens. Not all that quick either. So I don't know. I still found myself generally. I mean, it's probably because I forget that it's there because I'm not used to it. But a lot of the time I would just go to the button and then use that, rather than you have, in theory, got the semi press for the focus and then the full press for to take the picture. So if we move on to the camera. The main camera on the back is a 23 megapixel f2.0 24mm lens. The front facing is 13 megapixel f2.0 22mm. Now, when you go to the Sony website and you look up this device, most of the website is kind of talking about the cameras and kind of, I guess, how amazing they are. So I expected pretty fantastic results from it. I wouldn't really say that that's what I got. The results to me seemed a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes the pictures looked good and the colours popped. I wouldn't say focus was an issue and anything like that, but just sometimes they looked a little bit washed out. Other times, the pictures looked really, really good, really crisp. If you had good conditions, definitely nice, strong pictures. The front-facing camera, again, probably one of the better front-facing cameras I've seen, actually. So that was very good. I don't think I had any particular issues with that. It seemed more consistent than the rear-facing, in fact. Then we move on to video. Now, my first thing I noticed was, although it's a 23 megapixel rear-facing, it only shoots in 1080p. There was no 4K, so that surprised me a little bit. And then again, it just seemed the colour seemed a little bit washed out. Didn't really pop like I'd hoped they would. Poor light performance seemed okay. It seemed a reasonably good job of getting enough light into the lens. And again, the front-facing camera seemed to be probably the stronger element of it. So generally just a little bit disappointed, I suppose, at times. I would also comment it doesn't default to a very high resolution. You have to go into the settings and bump it way up yourself, so don't forget to do that. Excuse me, hiccup. Should you when you get the device. If we move on to the software, the first thing I'll point out, it does have double tap to wake, but it didn't seem as reliable as others, like, what was I using, the G5 I think it was perhaps, that it seemed to work every single time. I mean, obviously now I'm filming, it's going to be perfect obviously, but there were times where I tapped the screen and it didn't come on. It's going to show me up right now, as you would expect. I quite like the stock looking notification bar and quick toggles and all that kind of thing. That's I am a person that prefers the stock look. I can't, oh, look, for some reason I can't clear this life log thing. We'll come to that in a moment. So yeah, that's all very stock looking. If we go into the actual settings, it gets a bit colourful. So it's laid out reasonably stock-like, but it is a little bit more colourful than you would expect if they were going for the stock look. It's got its usual Sony bloat on there, but actually not that much, to be fair to them. So you've got their own albums app and music app, and this life log which will go out on Kobo. Oh, and it did have AVG that I have disabled. Some of them you can disable. So Kobo ebook, that's not mine. Oh, I think if I let go again, there we go. So there, I get to disable it. I can't uninstall it, but I can disable it. And then let's have a look at life log. So if you're a Sony, to be honest, I don't use a lot of bloat when I'm borrowing devices. I'd take a quick look, and so I had a quick look at the life log. I think I've looked at it before. If it's your sort of thing, then I guess not too bad. It basically lets you log everything through your day, and you can go back and have a look at it. You can add in, which button is it? I forget. Oh, play the day look. So if it's monitoring your sleep, as you can see, I didn't turn on to about 3 o'clock when I thought, I really should have a look at some of the software on these things. Is that the one that lets me add a? Let's not worry about my location. Create life bookmark. Sorry, there it is. Look. So it does, it monitors your steps. I can't get it, unfortunately, to just, I've got a Wii pedometer. I can't get it to link into that instead. I don't think I can even get it to link into Google Fit, which I thought was a bit of a, the settings is very sparse, look. I thought it was a bit of a disappointment. If they'd played ball with some other things, it would have made it a lot more useful. So yeah, some Sony bits and pieces on there, but nothing too much. You can disable them, you can't uninstall them. Generally though, I felt it was actually pretty slick and smooth, which you'd expect. It benchmarks quite high, and although we're all aware that doesn't necessarily lead to direct real world performance, I felt, it was slick and smooth. I can't remember any times I was noticing lag. So they've generally done quite a good job as far as the software on the Xperia X performance. I'm going to mention then the battery is a non-removable Li-ion 2700 milliamp hour battery, so quite small by a lot of standards today. 2700 is probably one of the smaller batteries I've used in a long time. It does have quick charge 2.0 for the micro USB charger, and generally it worked quite well. So I know I went from 12% to 47% in 30 minutes, pretty good going. But it took 2 hours and 6 minutes to go all the way from 12% to full. The last 20% took an hour. So it went all the way up to 80 in an hour, and then it took another hour to do the last 20%, which I haven't seen from a device. Normally at that sort of pace, you're going to be done within kind of an hour and 40 perhaps. So a little bit weird. I wasn't quite sure what that was about. No wireless charging, which is a shame. It's not essential. I quite like it. It's nice to have. There you go. They haven't got it. It seemed reasonable, the battery life, although it scored very poorly in my test. One of the worst I've had in a long while, in fact. And if we have a look now, so I'm on 34% now. Just had an average day at work. I haven't used the phone that much myself. So we can see there, that looks a bit of a misleading graph. Why does it start just from this morning and in that small corner of the screen? So it looks like it's like plummeted down. Look at the screen. I've only got an hour and 10 minutes screen on time. So that was from about 8 o'clock this morning, I think. I don't think it was quite full when I started, 95% maybe. But yeah, that's not particularly great. So it's saying this last third of the battery will last me 7 hours 33 minutes, which I suppose isn't bad. If that's the last third, that means the full battery is going to be 22, 23 hours. I'm not sure I believe that. I think 18 hours would be the most I'd be expecting to get. As you can see, it does a stamina mode and ultra stamina mode, but they obviously start reducing the usability of the device. If I mention hackability, doesn't look to be much. I had a look on the XDA website, and normally I'll show you some video of me scrolling through the page and showing you all this, but actually literally it was just a few threads. So I took a screenie and I can show you that. So it doesn't look like, maybe it's just not a popular device with the developers. So don't be buying the device if that's what you have in mind. So overall, I like the device. It's a nice device. Interestingly, I tried something very unscientific with my very unscientific tests, and I started like giving a score based on the device's position in my list of the devices that I've tested. So, for example, as I mentioned, the speaker, this is, I think, the worst I've done, and it's at the bottom of my list, so therefore it's scoring 0. On the screen brightness, it was I forget now if it's 3rd or 4th, so therefore I worked out the percentage. If I've tested 13 devices screening it, had 3 of them above it, what percentage is left? I don't know, if it was like 76, it scores a 76. So on the different things that I test, like benchmarking, so this scored quite well. Speaker scored badly, screen scored reasonable, battery life scored badly, and then I worked out an average, and it really didn't come out very well at that point. I think it was about 44. I'll probably be able to put a graphic on the screen here that shows you the different results. So very unscientific, but it does come out quite poorly in that because of the speaker and the battery. Now the speaker, some people might not care a single bit about, so it's not, it really is an unscientific test, and I'm not making a big deal of it. I just thought it was quite interesting, and actually the device didn't score very well, which probably isn't a fair reflection. I do quite like the device. I think the design is quite beautiful, I would say. It's a really nice looking phone. The feels good in the hand, it feels well made, screen looks great, the speakers are quite poor, and to me that is quite important, so that's a bit of a disappointment, and the battery wasn't very good, as I've mentioned. So I suppose the big problem is it doesn't really wow me in any ways. There's nothing particularly that it does really well, or it's not got a unique selling point necessarily, I wouldn't say. The camera, I just couldn't say it was too inconsistent. Some of the video I thought really wasn't that good. I have done some comparison videos. Have a look if you want to see it compared to things like the Note 5 or the LG G5. So it's a reasonable device. If you've got one, you're probably very happy. I don't think personally I would buy one. If I was told, Andy, you've got to use this for the next 6 months, yeah, I mean, okay. I lasted 10 days on some device. If I really don't like a device, I don't end up using it that long before I think I just need to get this review done and get away from it. And it's not that at all. I've used it for 10 days, if not 11, something like that. And it's okay. It's fine. It just doesn't wow me. It just doesn't really have anything that kind of jumps out as being a great feature that other phones don't have. So there you go. I mean, it's reasonable. That's about it. Anyway, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts based on the things that I've been through. So there we go. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.